please feel free to shoot me a message in the chat box with your email, and I'll make sure to get you the recording too. If there's something that you're like, oh my gosh, what did they say about this or whatever, just let me know. Okay. So we've got two amazing panelists on today. I'm going to attempt to spotlight them as we go through this. Spotlight and spotlight. Perfect. So we've got two amazing panelists today. We've got Andrew Gresham and we've got Kay Patel. I would love for you two to take just a split second and tell us your name again, just so we can make sure we know who's who. Seems a little obvious. Your name again, where you are, and what your role is. So Andrew, let's kick it off with you.
My name is Andrew Gresham. I'm the director of ISA in Little Rock, Arkansas for Kerry Ellison's team, the Ellison Group. She is the owner, executive broker here at Keller Williams Little Rock, and has the team. Let's see. So that's about it. ISA director.
Love it.
Only person in the role here at the team, and very new into the role. And we're just making it up as we go along, it seems like.
Funnest way to do it. Kay, how about you? Who are you and where are you?
Yeah, so hi guys, I'm Kay Patel. I am the director of sales and the director of client services for the Dana Pollard Group out of Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. And yeah, we've just grown tremendously over the last several years, and the ISA department was something that we just didn't have. So being director of sales, I just kind of took the leap and decided to jump in and do it myself because I needed it done.
Which is something, if you get to know Kay, you will learn is what she does.
Yeah.
So I am curious just to give you guys a little bit of background as well on these two outstanding panelists so that you'll know where you're looking for these people to come from. Andrew, how did you get into real estate?
So I was a food broker and a chef for years, and I was in consultative sales in food service. The market shifted with COVID, and a lot of manufacturers cut products, so the need for a chef was not really there anymore, and they wanted to sell chicken tenders. I love to sell, and I've always wanted to invest in real estate. I had my license about 5 years ago as a backup, and found the perfect opportunity and got into real estate. Just full force, went head on into it.
Awesome. Love to sell, didn't love to sell chicken tenders is what I heard in that story.
That's essentially it.
Hey, how did you get into real estate?
Well, my husband had a transportation company. I really helped them build that up for like 6 years, worked behind the scenes, did everything for him, finally got to a point where he was able to sell it. And he was like, well, it's your turn. What do you want to do? Where is your heart? And he was like, I think you should do real estate. So I owe a lot of it to him because he knew what I would love to do. Just deep inside, I've always loved houses. So decided to get into real estate, took a leap of faith. Was not the easiest road, but it led me here. So I'm super grateful. I think that I got into it, never looked back.
Awesome. Love that. So now we know where they came from. And I do think it's interesting to pay attention to their course into real estate and their respective roles as it currently stands in real estate as well. These are the things I'm wanting you guys to really listen for is who am I looking for to fulfill this role? I'm curious, whoever wants to kick this off, what has your journey through real estate looked like? So now we know how you got in. What did you come in as? Where do we look to grow to? What does that sound like?
So essentially for me, it started as I had my license held as a referral status while I was in food service sales. I ultimately made the decision in the leap to get in full time. I was at Coldwell Banker as an agent and just was not getting the training and not getting any of the guidance really to do what are the right things to do. The 80-20 rule, of course. It really wasn't getting much guidance, and it was a lot of an older system, if you will, where a lot of the agents were relying on old referrals. Well, that's not going to work for me. I had to build a pipeline and build that going. So the first year for me was pretty rough. I did not make a whole lot of money, made a few sales, and it was rough. And I'm just glad my wife has had a great job to help support the household for the time being. Getting over here with Kerry and April, I feel like I've 5x'd my business so far, just by what we're working on in the pipeline, what the opportunities we have right now, the listing appointments, the buyers, and everything that goes with that. Just with the leadership and training that we've got over here, if there's ever a question, there's somebody with a positive answer or somebody that's going to work it through with you. And that's been the make or break moments.
Awesome. Awesome. Kay, how about you? What does your journey through real estate look like?
I'm right there with you, Andrew. The first couple of years of real estate were brutal. Did not make any money actually, or any money that I did make went straight back into fees or dues. So definitely was a tough couple years. And as soon as I found Keller Williams, I really found that backing that I was looking for and the structure and the training and everything. So I finally found Keller Williams in 2019 and really started kicking it off right away. I joined a team, wasn't the right team for me, went into LEAP, the LEAP program that we previously had at our KW office, really excelled in that. And my coach in LEAP actually is the one who introduced me to Dana, saying that she thought that I would be a great fit for this new agent that just got back into real estate. She previously had a team and wants to start a team again. And so I started off as just a buyer's agent with her. We kicked it off right away. I went from having 0 sales to probably, I think I did 27 my first year with her. And so just like you said, Andrew, the support that I got, the support that I felt, the training that I received, and just having that backing and having that confidence boost because somebody else believed in me. I think that was a huge deal for me. So really loved it and never looked back. It's been about 4 years now.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to start with Kay on this question. So I'm coming right back around to you. You had mentioned in your introduction that you bootstrapped, you decided it was time to go ahead and just start this ISA department for the team. What was the indication that the team needed an ISA department in your opinion?
We could not get our agents to do the follow-up. We just could not get our agents to do the follow-up. It is not part of their top 20%. I don't think that it's their strength, in other words, and they are so good at what they do. Why not let them do what they're great at and have a department that's good at what they do and really just be able to 10x the business that way? And so that was really the mindset behind it. And I know, Leah, you and I have been talking about starting an ISA department for about 1.5 years now. So I finally just pulled the plug and I was like, look, I think that until we have a structure in place and figuring out what works, it's going to be really hard to hire somebody for that position. We don't know that. So somebody from the team who knows what they're doing and who understands our systems as they currently are really needs to step into that position and just take it on, own it, and let's see where it takes us. And that just happened to me.
Interesting. Yeah. And here's what I love about having you two up here is that the teams took slightly different routes in the approach to this ISA world. And that's something I see a lot is agents so concerned that if I don't do it the one right way, then I shouldn't do it at all. And there is some variation here, right? And so this is something I want for you to hear. So Kay decided this needs to happen. The agents aren't doing the follow-up that they need to be doing. And perhaps that isn't even their number one best use of their time anyway. So we need to bring someone in to do it. And why not have someone from within the team do it? Okay. Andrew, you were not previously a part of the Ellison group when you jumped in to do ISA, correct?
Correct. I was over at Coldwell Banker and they recruited me over. And Kerry got wind of that I was speaking with our leadership trainer, recruiter, and got a hold of me and took me and my wife out to dinner, answered some questions, and it just seemed like the perfect fit. I want to echo what Kay was saying that, you know, with the agents, they have their strengths and follow-up is really not on their list of priorities, but we all know fortune's in the follow-up. So there's got to be something there to move forward with that. The Ellison group had an ISA position prior, and we're just kind of trying to feel it out, get it working, try to figure out what it's like a moving target, trying to figure out what's moving on. So now, right now, I'm collaborating with Kerry on a weekly basis to try to, each week, we're trying to figure out what's our next step. What do we need to do to move forward, get better at it, get more organized, and get those leads into the pipeline.
Yep. What's been really cool to watch, and this is just kind of an interjection here, is that both of these programs are new, young, they're in their infancy stages. And yet for both of them, we've seen some really tremendous outcomes already. So that's just more foreshadowing to come in the conversation. What does the ISA department, if you will, what does it currently look like, Andrew, for your team, and then Kay for yours?
For our team, it looks like me. This is the face of the ISA. I'm on the phones as much as possible throughout the week. Whether it be circle prospecting, open house invites, expireds, FISBOs, sign calls, sphere, just anything that could be a lead, bringing it into the system, into the pipeline, and then scattering it out to the agents as we get them vetted, qualified, and they're ready to go.
Okay.
I don't want to give an agent a client that's nowhere near ready. They've got 5 others that they need to work on.
How do you define ready? I'm going to go ahead and interject, and I'm curious, how do you define ready?
So for an A seller and A buyer, that would be in the next month, 30 days, you have to make a decision. You don't really have another option. You've got that pain point, or you are just so ready to sign that on that dotted line that you're there.
Cool.
And if they're there and they're raising their hand and they're waving it in our face, we're going to grab them and take them through the process.
Beautiful. So Andrew is handing out 30 days or less ready to go A buyers and sellers.
Yes.
Okay. How about you? What does your ISA department look like?
Yeah, so I couldn't step fully into an ISA as much as I wanted to. I couldn't do it all on my own. I still had my duties and everything as the director of sales too. So with all that, we decided to bring on a VA to assist me with all of the follow-ups. So I do initial consultations and really set the expectations with our buyers and our sellers, really understanding what they're looking for, getting them set up on a search, getting them understanding what our processes are, walking them through the steps. And what we qualify as a ready to go buyer is that they have signed a buyer rep agreement, they have a pre-approval in hand, and they are ready to start shopping. So unless they are ready to start shopping, we're still going to continue nurturing them, even if they have those previous 2 things.
Gotcha. You mentioned VA with you. Can you talk to me a little bit about the breakdown of the work between you and that VA?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I do everything when it comes to incoming and inbound leads. So when it comes to brand new leads, if there are any phone calls that are coming through, like with Google Ads, or if they call our DPG line, I'm accepting those phone calls. I feel like a lot of those calls, they need to be talking to a licensed agent and getting that information right away. And it's very easy for me just to go ahead and schedule a consultation with me, just right off the bat during that initial phone call. If at any given point I cannot get them to schedule a consultation from that initial phone call, if they're just not ready, then it goes over to my VA, who is doing all of the nurturing for me. So he mines the database. He is nurturing leads until they're ready for a consultation. And then even after the consultation is done, I do set the expectation with my buyers and sellers that, hey, you're going to hear from my VA. This is my assistant. We're going to continue to nurture you. So there are automated emails that go out from me, but he's also doing the phone calls and text messages. So they're kind of getting a combination effect.
Got it. Okay. Both of you talked about handing off leads. Andrew, what is that lead flow, that lead routing? How do we decide who's getting what? Talk to me about that.
So we have some agents that are geographically around the metro area. One is up a little bit north, and she kind of handles more raw land, any properties that have a lot of land with them. She's kind of an expert when it comes to that. We push those to her. We've got one, Kerry on the team. If it's a luxury listing, we're going to push Kerry to it. She's been doing it for 30 plus years, and she's the best at it. So we're going to put those high dollar, very important clients to her. We've got other agents that, we've got buyer's agents and we've got listings agents. So if it's a buyer, we'll send it specifically to a certain person. We try to vet how their personality is on the phone to kind of match them up with an agent that's going to mesh with them very well. Last thing we want to do is have somebody that just doesn't click and we lose a listing or a buyer because it just didn't work out with the personalities. So we try to head that off at the beginning and categorize them, whether what scale they are.
Very good. Very good. And out of curiosity, are you the one that is reaching out to that agent to say, hey, I've got a lead for you, or what is that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, I am. I'll typically go on when I'm sitting right here, it's a time crunch. I've got them on the phone, they're ready, they're raising their hand. So I lock them down with an appointment, and I'll just go onto the group calendar, team calendar, and look who's got an opening coming up that works for their schedule and throw it onto their schedule. Just build them out like that. And if for some reason they can't do it, we'll reschedule it with someone else. And we have a lot of follow-up, other people, admins on the team that will make phone calls prior to that to really kind of gauge some extra info and make sure we're all on the same page about what we're looking at.
Got it. Okay. How about you?
Yeah, so I take a very similar approach to Andrew, where we are really looking at the personality and who's going to be the best personality fit. I think that plays such a big role in the conversion, and we found a lot of success with me being able to pick out, okay, this agent is going to be a really good fit for this person. It does vary from like area to area, how familiar they are with the certain cities that the client might be looking in. Also, same thing with you, price point plays a big factor in that as well. If it is a luxury client, then we do want to set them up with a luxury agent on the team. And so we just kind of categorize as far as like, okay, who's going to be the best fit for this client with all of their needs. And I really try to gauge their personalities, understand what they're looking for. And I even ask the question sometimes if I just really can't gauge them too well. Hey, what is important to you when I'm connecting you with an on-field agent? What is going to be the most important thing for you? And I feel at that point, it lets them feel heard. It makes them feel like they have a little bit more control. And I do always preface with them that they are allowed to come back to me, and they are able to come back to me and let me know if they are not a good fit with that agent for any given reason. If they just don't feel like it's a good personality match, or maybe they just don't connect with their agent very well, and we can absolutely connect them with somebody else as well. And we have set that expectation with our agents also.
Love that. How do you guys know that you're winning? What are your metrics? How do we know? How does your rainmaker know that this is going well?
Oh,
Go for it, Kay.
yeah, I was going to say
off.
probably just appointment set. I think we're still gauging as far as what we consider winning, just because we are we're not far enough into this yet where we're like, okay, this is what's working and this is what's not. We're kind of figuring out what's working and what's not as we go. But I do think that what's letting us know that we're winning right now, and that this is definitely a department that we want to continue to feed and continue to nurture, is the fact that we are setting so many appointments from these quote unquote dead leads that agents have sent over to us, and that were just in our database for forever. And we have like thousands of them, and we're going in and we're nurturing these guys that have not spoken to us in 2 to 3 years, and re-engaging them and setting consultations with them, and even converting them over to signed buyer rep agreements, connected to agents. And we've just started this in May, and we already have 5 under contract for.
Say that again.
We started in May and we have 5 under contract so far. So we're super excited that this is actually flowing, and these were all leads from the database too, and not just new leads that are coming in. And that was what we considered winning.
That's huge. That's huge. Andrew, how about you?
So it's constantly a moving target. Like Kay said, it's so new that almost each week we're kind of reevaluating what worked this last week. What times were we calling certain people? What's going to be the most beneficial use of our time? When it comes to knowing that we're winning, we're keeping up with metrics, we're keeping the scorecard going daily. How many contacts are made? How many appointments are set? How many ops are being added into command? And like Kay said, we had a database of over 10,000 in command for the team, and most of them probably hadn't been touched in a while. There's just so many. And so we started going through those and setting them up on new smart plans and other things. And finally, we started seeing them come out of the woodwork. Just like Kay was saying, they haven't been touched in 2 years. We call them and they say, yeah, I am ready. I was thinking about that. I don't know how you knew to call me. And those are the wins, is we can go dig through the dirt and find these diamonds and know that they're in there. Those are wins.
I'll say, I just want to highlight too, because both of you have mentioned that there's Andrew, you said this just the other day on our one-on-one call, there's diamonds in that dirt, right? which I love that phrase. I'm stealing that now forever and ever. Both of you have mentioned that we found diamonds in these dead leads, right? No one's responding. These aren't doing anything. And it's because we've now implemented a system that strategically and systematically is starting to work through them. The thing that I want to highlight, though, just for everyone else on this call, and I'm saying this with love and grace, not any kind of chastising at all. Both of these databases were a little rough. Both of these databases, we had some serious challenges to work through. Kay on our last call mentioned, well, I was tracking, this, that, and the other. And then we went in and we updated our CRM system and the way that we're tracking and tagging stuff. And now I lost that data. Right. And so there's been some painful turns. Andrew mentioned that we've got clients on multiple smart plans pushing so many tasks forward that he can barely dig himself out of the dirt. Yep. Right. And so there's things going on, and I'm going to argue, this is just a me thing, I'm going to argue that some of the indication that this ISA thing is so needed. If your database has gotten to the point where it feels like it's like this big, scary mountain of mess, you might need an ISA. You might need someone whose one thing is to really dig in there and figure out what the heck is going on and how to actually convert it the way that Gary and Jason Abrams and all the rest keep telling us to do. So
absolutely,
back off the soapbox. Just wanted to point that out.
Absolutely. And I think Kay can attest to this. All the agents out there that, from other firms and other places in the community, they don't follow up. They've, how many times have these clients been talked to from 4 or 5 different agents? They're not following up. So when we do, we get the conversation going. We're the ones that are engaged, and we're the ones that are been able to pull out the appointments. So
yeah. And I say that all the time. I'm always telling my students that, hey, look, you just have to be first in line. Like, you have to be in front of their eyes at all times, because they don't really care about who they had the best connection with a year and a half ago and you guys had a great lunch together. They're not going to remember that. They're going to see who is sending me emails, who's the easiest person I can find and contact as soon as they have that need and as soon as they have that trigger. So we just need to be in front of them at all times. And it's just about not getting disheartened that, hey, they're not following back up or they haven't reached back out to us. Consistency is key.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Couple more questions here before I open it up to the rest of the crew. And I've been getting some direct messages in the chat box for folks that I know aren't shy. So I'm assuming you're in loud places, although if you are shy, that's fine too. I'll happily to ask them for you. Where are you guys tracking this data? What is your metric tool that you're using? Are we using Command? Are we using a smart plan? Are we using a spreadsheet? What does that look like?
Go for it.
We're revamping Follow Up Boss right now. So yes, as you were saying, Leah, we are going through a lot of growing pains. So we use Follow Up Boss as our CRM, and there is so much tracking that you can actually do within Follow Up Boss if you're using it correctly. Go figure. We were not using it correctly, so we learned the hard way, and we're kind of going back in. I love our director of operations, Kevin. He is phenomenal. And he is working overtime right now to make sure that Follow Up Boss is being utilized to its full potential to be able to allow me to track data better from the ISA department standpoint. And so he's kind of doing all of this revamping for our ISA department and for our future, because I think that as we continue to grow, if we're not tracking the proper metrics, how are you going to be able to grow your business? So we're definitely utilizing that. And for the meantime, I have made myself a nice little handy dandy Google form that I am supposed to fill out at the end of every day. It is not my strong suit, but I'm getting better at it. And so I just fill that out at the end of every day. It's at least keeping track of my numbers. I have my VA Rusty doing the exact same thing. So we're at least able to gauge and understand raw numbers as we're going through our day-to-day activities until we are able to get Follow Up Boss up and running to its highest potential.
Awesome. Andrew?
I'll echo with the beginning with the Google Forms. We do those as well at the end of each day. And just like Kay, that's not my strong suit. But we have those that where they go into Excel. We can keep track of daily numbers there. We've got the Google Forms. Of course, we use a program called Sisu, sisu.co. It's a great transaction coordination page. And then of course, Command. where we're putting those opportunities into command, into CSU, into the forms. So we've got multiple areas that all kind of track the same data, but all kind of show a little bit different side of it. So that's how we've been working through that to just stay on top of it as best as possible.
Gotcha. Last question from me, and then I'm going to open it up to the rest of the crew here. What have you found to be the most challenging aspect of getting this department up and running? Andrew, you want to kick off?
There were so many leads. We didn't know where to start. It was just, we had it all over the place in 10 different areas, and it was just the bear. We weren't sure how to tackle it, but we sat down, we built a game plan around it. Each week we were going to tackle different aspects of it. We're hitting it at different angles. And over the last couple of days, we've gotten very good handle on it. We've got everything on perfect smart plans, single smart plans, so that they don't give 5 tasks for a single day. So that's been very nice, is to be able to finally get that kind of under control, and to a point where we feel like we're running it and it's not running us.
Yeah, well said. How about you, Kay?
I kind of have to agree with Andrew. I think it's the number of leads and not really knowing what to do with them and trying to figure out how to categorize them. So as soon as we were able to categorize the different type of leads that we are actually going to be receiving or that we have already, I think that just made a huge difference for us, where even with having a whole CRM overhaul right now, we're able to keep on top of it just because we have those categories. So I think it's just about getting starting somewhere and just figuring out what's working and what's not working. I think that's the biggest obstacle to actually cross, is just getting started. Once you kind of get started, I feel like you're just kind of full blown in there and you're just like, okay, well, we're going to figure this out one way or another. It's just taking bite-sized pieces at a time.
Yeah. Well said. Any other thoughts or comments from you two before I open it up to the group?
ISAs, I mean, they do the dirty work that the agents don't want to pull out the leads so that they're ready for you, and they work themselves essentially.
I think that the ISA department is just so crucial for every single business. I mean, if you are looking to grow your team to be something large, or even if you're just an individual agent that needs to focus on your top 20%, I think having an ISA and starting that early on in your team is just going to be so beneficial. I think that's my biggest regret, is not starting it early enough. And so I think that we would have had, instead of like 350 closings in a year, I think we would have had 500 plus if we would have just started the ISA probably 2 years ago. So I do think that starting it as early as possible is always key. And then just don't get disheartened by it. I think it's always there's always going to be growing pains within your business, but don't get disheartened by it and just keep on going with it. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to unpin us so that way we can also see who's asking the questions. And while I'm doing that, I really appreciate, Kay, what you mentioned about doing it early, starting the ISA team early. If you guys harken back to the MREA org model charts, especially MREA 2, we skip over it every dang time, but ISA is early. ISA is an early hire. And there is a reason for that. And it is to keep the rainmaker in their 20%. Okay, Ryan, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Should I ask the question for you? Yes, okay, Ryan's on the move, so I just wanted to make sure. So Ryan had a question. He wondered, for either of you, do you run out of people to call?
Never.
Never.
Not a chance. No.
Andrew, I want to hear from you specifically on this too, because outside of just working on cleaning up the database, who else have you been calling and having success with?
So we run Mojo auto dialer, and I'll hop on it and I'll do a geo tag of a neighborhood. I circle prospect for open houses to invite neighbors, and the main point of that is to just enlighten the neighborhood that there's a new house on the market. There's going to be traffic in your area. Those kind of conversations that aren't driving around, hey, do you want to buy or sell a house? They understand that you're giving them neighborhood insight. And they can become a resource for you in the neighborhood. I've got people in different neighborhoods that'll give me a call. Hey, this house is coming up for sale, or some happenings in the neighborhood. We'll do open houses, and we did an open house a week ago, and I think it had 45 different groups come through in Little Rock. That's unheard of. That's crazy numbers. We'll circle prospect, new listings. We'll circle prospect, just solds. We'll circle prospect to circle prospect, just to call to see if you might know somebody. It's never ending. You can always pick up a new neighborhood. Even if you called them last month, call them again. You probably only got through half of the neighborhood anyways.
Yep.
So if you call them back and they say, oh, you called me last month. Yep, I was calling again just to check in and see how you were doing. I've got a little bit more neighborhood insight for you. And then you become the resource for them, and they're calling you instead of you having to call them.
Love that. Love that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do pretty much the same thing, like where we've never run out of people to call yet. I think that there's just so many people in the database that we already have, but it's also about all of the new leads that are coming in, and then our agents who are out there on social media and doing open houses. We have a lot of systems for them to go out and do lead generation. So what we do on our team is heavily teach them how to do their lead gen, instead of just relying on the team leader to bring in all of the leads for them. So with that, they're bringing in a tremendous amount of leads. We have Google ads. We just have so many different revenues of lead sources. So we are combining all of those, and all of those are funneling through the ISA department. So if I don't have any more new leads to call in a day, we're running over into our database and figuring out who are our top leads, like I said, in categories. So we have our A list, which we're going to contact every single day, no matter what, just going through that list. If we get through that list, then we move on to the B list, then the C list, which means that we just always have a funnel of leads to call, no matter what happens.
So I love what you just said. This segues really nicely into, Kristen just dropped in the chat box this question. If you have a team and each agent has a large database of leads, how do you decide who to start with on their database or whatever? Are you spending a certain amount of time on each person's database? Can you guys speak to that?
Yeah. So for us, when it comes to others' databases, we try to have it, because through command, I can see everybody's on the team's pipeline. And if I'm in there and I notice that they've got some past due tasks, or there's some tasks in there that need to be done, we can go in and make the call for them on their behalf, so that they keep that relationship with the client that they've got. And the follow-ups being done, they can go spend their energy out on the street listing houses, getting those contracts signed. That's really where we thrive with it, is just being able to handle everyone else's database, as well as them doing their own, of course, but picking up that extra slack and kind of being that safety net to not let things go through the cracks.
Kristen,
Yeah.
does that answer that question? Okay, I'm gonna let you go too. Absolutely. I'll wait for Kristen to throw it in the chat box. Okay, what do you got for that?
Yeah, so I was going to say that I think that a huge part of it is allowing the agents to choose who they want the ISA to nurture, what leads they want the ISAs to nurture versus what leads that they want to nurture themselves. That might be family members, or, just anybody who they're extremely close to that they might want to keep for themselves to nurture. They don't really need nurturing. They know that they're always going to come back to them as the agent. So we allowed them to choose who they want the ISA to nurture for their personal leads. And that only adds a bigger value proposition for them when they're joining a team, because they don't have to be doing that follow-up. So we almost have shifted that mindset for them into, hey, this is a value proposition for you. This is value to you, that we are able to follow up with all of your leads for you for a very minimal percentage. And so they just kind of eat that up right away, especially after they have had a few of these leads where they did have a buyer rep sign, they did have a pre-approval letter, they were ready to start shopping. When we're handing our agents those type of leads, they are more than eager to send their entire database over to us to nurture. And with that, going back to the question, how do we maintain everybody's database? We have everybody on an action plan similar to Andrew, and then we have tasks from those action plans. So it's just one of our jobs to go into everybody in the database and make sure that everybody's turned on an action plan. And we can filter that out through Follow-Up Boss, where we can see who is not on one, and then make sure that they are added to the correct one.
Got it. Got it. Then these two questions kind of go along together. So Ryan and Meredith both had questions around how you structure your day largely and what that call time looks like. So Ryan's question was more specific. Does the ISA call 6 to 8 hours a day, or are you doing other tasks in addition to being on the phone? And then Meredith also asked, and again, I'm kind of marrying these together. How many calls are you making a day? And is this an hourly or a daily goal? So do you guys, who wants to jump in and talk about how are you structuring your day and measuring your success? Is it time? Is it dials? What does that look like?
I think when it comes to the numbers for the day, like I had mentioned prior, some days are better for circle prospecting. Some days are better for, sometimes the days are better afternoon versus morning when more people are going to answer the phone. We try to figure out and we're really trying to map that out right now with our metrics to kind of see at what point and who are we calling on what days are really going to drive the numbers. Our goal daily is 40 contacts, whether that be 1,000 phone calls through the auto dialer, 3-line auto dialer, or that could be 100 phone calls that are quality appointments that we get set through that. So that ultimate call per day changes with the activity and how much traction we're getting. It's a split between circle prospecting, open house, command calls, nurtures, and things like that. So it's really a mix of all of the above. When you've got 10,000 plus leads going on and one person kind of manning the station, got to spread it out, spread the love a little bit, and kind of touch on each of the producing avenues.
The world is Andrew's oyster is basically what he's got, all the opportunities in terms of how many calls and where he can make them. Kay, how do you structure your day? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I have my VA go in and he responds to any missed calls, text messages, emails from the night before that he was off. And so he finishes those first, and then he moves into tasks. So anything that is a task that's on his plate, and through our action plans and through our smart plans, he finishes up all of those tasks and then he starts working on the database. So I just have him do that step by step every single day. And usually that takes all 8 hours. We haven't really figured out exactly what's working best when it comes to the number of calls that he needs to make in a day. I think on average, we are hoping to make about 30 to 40 contacts, very similar to Andrew. And despite how many calls that actually takes, it kind of varies from day to day, and we're still kind of measuring those metrics here. But when it comes to figuring out what contacts are actually being made, that's really what we're aiming for, is the number of people we're actually able to connect with. And with that, we're averaging about 30 to 40 right now. And then we are averaging about 5 to 7 appointments set per week.
Love that. I love that. The first week that Kay had data to bring to a call, that lost data, which thankfully I wrote that down, that 1 week, right?
Yeah.
It was very exciting because we had started getting things rolling. Same thing with Andrew. When Andrew comes onto a call and he's like, well, yeah, I set this many buyer appointments and found this many listing leads. It's ooh, this is exciting stuff, right? The thing that I want to emphasize from their answers, and I think this is so important, whether you have an ISA, whether you're considering an ISA, or whether you are the ISA, if you are still in that chair making the calls, it is not about the dials. You heard both of them say that what they are focusing on is the contacts. You could make 1,000 dials and connect with no one, and there's no celebration to be had. You could make 5 dials and have 5 killer conversations that result in consults. And if that's your goal for the day, be done for the day, right? It's all about the contacts right now for our ISA teams and our agents. You started to mention this, Andrew, and Sarah asked in the chat box, what have you found to be the best times to be calling? And does that differ based on lead type or no?
It does. So if I'm circle prospecting early in the week, Monday, Tuesday in the mornings, people seem a little more grumpy. They're at work, they've got their week going, they're jam-packed, and they're really getting their week started. They don't really have much time. When that comes towards the later in the week, in the afternoons, I find a lot better traction with circle prospecting at those times. When it comes to other calls, open house, people are always seem to be willing to listen to an open house call because it's just information. But the mornings can be tough sometimes. People are a little grumpy. People are getting to work. People are late. People have meetings. They don't want to talk, but you'll still find some in there. But I do find traction better in the afternoons when people are a little more relaxed. They've gotten through their day. They've had their lunch. They've seen the 5 o'clock hour coming up. They're open to taking that phone call and chatting with you a little bit longer.
That's good to know. And I love that you said the don't have much time. We've all heard that. I don't
Yeah,
have much-
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
30 seconds turns into 10 minutes and then
That's right.
you've got an appointment. So
Okay. How about you? What have you noticed along those lines?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. The morning hours are usually not the best. So we actually structured our VA to start at 10 a.m. So he works 10 to 7 versus an 8 to 5, what normally some people might work. And so I just think that has worked tremendously better because he's able to get a lot more traction in those evening hours, especially when somebody's off of work, as they're traveling home, whatever it might be. They just have a little bit more time to talk and they're more willing to talk during those hours versus first thing in the morning when they're just getting their day started. So I think we've definitely like our 10 to 7 mindset versus the 8 to 5.
Yeah, good to know. Yep. Which kind of bucks our typical theory of 9 to 11 make phone calls. And so I think that that's worth it. We need to examine what is actually working, right? Versus what do we need to tweak? Kay, is your virtual assistant licensed? How does that work?
No, he is not licensed. So the reason why I think he's able to set appointments so quickly is because, oh, you have a question. That's fantastic. Let me get you connected with Kay. It's always about getting him connected or getting the client connected with me one way or another. So I have several different types of appointments that they can set with me. One of which is just the buyer consultation. If they're more hot and heavy, they're more ready to go and they really need a lot of information, he's going to go ahead and set them up on a buyer consultation with me. If it is somebody who just has some general real estate questions or just wanted a market update, I have a lot more time slots available for that, and they're just like a 15-minute phone call and he sets me up with them regarding that, and from that call I'm able to go ahead and set a consultation call because I sell them during that call. So I don't rely on him to do the selling aspect of it. I just rely on him to set those appointments, and once I'm in that appointment, I'm able to do that selling portion of it.
Got it. Yeah, that's a great question. Sarah also was wondering, what do we guys, and I'll kick it over to Andrew first. What do we do, guys, when we have a lead that becomes unresponsive once we've handed it off to an agent? What does that process look like? I'm assuming, Sarah, throw in the chat box if that's not quite what you were looking for, let me know. But I'm curious about that.
No, that's exactly what I meant. Since sometimes somebody comes in is like, I want to go see 123 Main Street, and you set them up with an agent and they go see maybe a couple of properties, and then suddenly they've changed their mind or life has took them in a different direction.
Got it. Yeah.
So when it comes to somebody wanting to see some homes or something along that line, we'll have them come in for a buyer appointment, sign some paperwork, and we see it as that's how you're going to have skin in the game. If you're truly invested in making a purchase, if you're truly in line, raising your hand to want to buy a property, that's one of the steps, and you're going to make that happen. You'll come in, you'll set a time, you'll come meet with us. We'll find out exactly what you're looking for. And especially in this market right now, there's the second something comes up, it's got multiple offers on it. So for us to really sit down and be able to understand what their true needs are and what they're looking for and what they're willing to do, kind of sets the scale there. But we don't just go out and somebody calls, I want to see this house. We don't just go run and show. We'll schedule it, we'll vet them, we'll make sure it's worth our effort. We always suggest, hey, why don't you go drive by the house and then give us a call if you still like the yard, if you still like the aspects about it. Come in and meet with us, get some paperwork signed. Let's do this properly and we'll get you under contract. And if they're unresponsive after we've gotten them signed and kind of that, we haven't really had too much of that, but they would most likely come back to me and I would go back into the nurture stage with them, contact them, keep working with them, and find out what the objections are and why they're wishy-washy, if you will.
I'm going to add Kay to the screen because I know, Kay, that you guys also are adamant about buyer consultations. And Meredith just threw in the chat a wonderful question that I hear all of the time is how do you get them into the office? How are we getting these consultations set? So I would love for you guys to riff on this and talk to us because you guys have slightly different processes for this. So Kay, talk to me about your process first, and then Andrew, I'm going to throw it back to you as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think that we do a lot of virtual appointments, so virtual consultations or phone appointments and phone consultations. So we give them the option for both. I found it a much higher success rate to get them on a virtual call versus getting them actually physically into the office. And that has just worked really, really well for us. And so we do a quick Zoom call or a Google Meets call, and I will get to understand their needs better. If they're hesitant on that or they're just not available behind a computer, let's talk on the phone. I can get all the information I need from you from the phone, but I do work the same way that Andrew does, is that I'm not just going to hand you off to an agent just to go look at a house just because you come at me saying that you want to look at a house. I do need you to sign a buyer rep agreement at the very minimum, if not get a pre-approval letter as well. And then we can get you connected with an agent. I think that the key is I get so excited when a new lead comes in. So I did make that mistake initially where I was like, okay, this lead came in, we need to get them connected with an agent right away. Let's get them connected and send it on over. Well, they weren't the most dedicated. We just have to stick to the systems. And the system is buyer consultation, sign the buyer rep agreement, get pre-approved, get connected with an agent. And so as long as we're following those systems, I have found that even the client really feels appreciated. They know what to expect in the systems, and that actually makes them feel even more comfortable working with us because we actually have a system in place and we're not just throwing everything in the air and hoping to catch all the balls.
Love that. Andrew, how about you?
I have to agree with that. If we just go out and run and show, we're setting a precedent that, yeah, it's just whatever. We'll just make it up as we go along. And that's not what we're trying to do. It's streamlined for a reason. There's systems and processes in place. And especially when we, explain it to a buyer, if you don't have this signed, I don't represent you. I technically represent the seller. So do you want me to represent you or the seller in this home? Well, of course they want to be represented. Well, that's why we need to meet. We need to come in, we need to sit down and go over what specifically you're looking for. Make sure we're all on the same page. You're not going to go to, set an appointment with a business and just willy-nilly it. They've got systems in place. They've got scheduling for a reason. They've got documentation they need. And that's what we try to present to the clients is it's important because it gives them skin in the game. It gives us skin in the game. And we're both working for the goal, the same goal.
Yeah.
And yeah, making sure everybody's got a little bit of skin in the game. It keeps people more in tune with what's going on. And especially if you don't have a rep signed or they won't sign it, there's probably something else going on there that we haven't uncovered, or an objection of some kind that they're hesitant with. So to get all that handled, taken care of, and if they're not going to sign, they're not going to sign, and we'll move on to the next one. But that is our main goal, is to get everybody on the same page. We're working together as a team. And as I present it to people, we are a team. You've got 10 people working on your behalf. Just because they're not the one making the phone call to you doesn't mean that the rest of the team isn't working on your behalf to find you that home or push everything forward. So the buyer consult, listing appointment, everything is crucial.
I have to agree with Andrew there with what he said. During the consultation, we just push so heavily on how we work as a team and how if you get one of us, you get all of us mentality, and then explaining to them that we work through buyer representation. That is how we work. It's not so much as, hey, I'm going to ask you for the signatures. I'm saying, hey, if you want to work with us, you have to sign this dotted line. And so they feel a lot more comfortable when you relay that in confidence, when you're able to say that with confidence that, hey, this is just how we work as a team. They are much more inclined to sign with you.
Yep.
there's scarcity that goes around asking for the consult, right? And a fear around, well, if I ask for the consult, I'm going to lose the business. And what I think is important to recognize, what both of these two have highlighted, is in asking for the consult, we are sorting out the crap from the good stuff, truly, right? And one of the things that I love about having an ISA team that fields through these leads is that they know that they're only going to get paid when the deal goes forward. And agents, I love us to bits and pieces, but we have sometimes an inflated ego around, well, I will win them over with my personality once I get them out in the field. Whereas what I tend to see instead is that my ISA folks are way more, I will win them over with our systems and processes before I toss them out to an agent. And I will tell you, as someone on the outside looking in, as a coach in this situation, the ISAs are winning more than the agents are when it comes to that. Also, on that same idea, around that same issue, is one thing that I tend to notice is there has to be a system of trust between the ISAs and your sales agents that are receiving these leads. When the trust breaks down, what ends up happening? I've seen it happen on my own team. I've seen it happen on the teams that I coach. The ISAs will start to say, well, I set a well-qualified, great appointment, and Leah, just totally let it go to waste. She didn't convert the lead. Wasn't my fault. Can't trust her. Right. And then vice versa happens. Leah goes, well, Kay sent me a bunk lead. There was no there. It was a waste of my time. And now I don't trust the ISA leads. So in them following these systems to a T, it makes that likelihood of conversion that much higher. And when the agent follows the systems that the agents are supposed to follow as well, again, it makes that likelihood of conversion that much higher. So if everyone's following by the same playbook, suddenly that trust goes way up, and this handoff process is phenomenal. Did either of you experience that in the ISA role thus far? Trust.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when I first got rolling with this role, I had to shift my mindset. It was definitely, oh, I've got somebody going, oh, let's get them in immediately. Let's get this. And it didn't quite vet them as well as should have, as much as I do now. Now I'd rather sit on them, nurture them, put them in an Excel spreadsheet and touch them multiple times in a week and make sure they're ready to rock before I set it with an agent. I don't want to waste anyone's time. And like you said, if it doesn't go to close, no one's getting paid. So it's a waste of time for everybody if there's no there.
Yeah.
So we really try to anchor that in, that there is something there. They are qualified. They are ready to look. They are interested. They want to do it, and going from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, having that buyer rep signed and the pre-approval letter, just having those check boxes checked off, it gives the agent a lot more confidence in working with that lead, I think. And so what we've seen on our team was that there was a lot of hesitancy in figuring out if this ISA department was even going to be worth it or work. And what I found was that the agents were hesitant on sending over their personal leads. And then we just had to show them what that was going to entail. We had to have a system behind it. So again, just like a system is going to make a client feel comfortable, it makes the agents feel comfortable too. Whether they know it or not, it just does. And so they are much more inclined to send over leads now, knowing that, hey, these are the steps that the ISA follows. I also think that it has a lot to do with just being open and transparent and being open to answering questions when agents have them. I think it's very easy to get frustrated with questions sometimes, and it's just being open to accepting these questions and explaining to them what we're doing in the back end. And after we were able to do that at a higher level, they were just a lot more inclined just to send over leads to us. They were a lot more inclined to accept leads when we gave it over to them.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Guys, we've got 4 more minutes. If there's anyone who has a burning desire to throw a question out into the mix, while we're waiting on that too, I will say I had been carefully pinning and unpinning Andrew and Kay, but not actually spotlighting them for you guys. It spotlighted on my side, but not on your side. So apologies for that. It looks great on my side. Apologies for that. Any other final questions that are just burning in the back of your brain? I genuinely, if your database is a mess, if you look at the budget with your coach, this needs to be looked at as well. There is a P&L question as well. And you're wondering, how can I make this database what Jason says is a data bank? Mine just feels like a data mess, right? The answer may be, we need to get an ISA in there. We need someone who is dedicated to loving on, nurturing, and converting leads into appointments. If you have other questions, if there's something that as soon as you hop off of this call, you're like, gosh, I wish I had asked this, you are more than welcome to reach out to me. If you guys are willing to be bugged, you're welcome. Andrew, I'm speaking to you, Andrew and Kay. You're welcome to drop your email in the chat box. If you want them to field those questions through me, I'm happy to do that as well to keep you guys focused on your one thing. Last chance for questions. Thank you, Kay. Appreciate that. Gorgeous. Well, I can see Andrew is working on his, so I'm going to hang tight for just a split second. There's Andrew and Kay's email addresses in the chat box if you want to reach out to them. If you're going to be at Mega Camp, I know Andrew will be there this year, so get a chance to meet him, talk with him there. Kay, unfortunately, will be hanging out in sunny California. That's okay. We're all jealous. It's all right. You need us for anything, you know where to find us. Reach out. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate. Guys, thank you so much for your willingness to be so transparent. Appreciate it. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful rest of your day.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.